All right, we have a busy Sunday night podcast, which for some of you will be Monday morning, but you can always go to the Colin Cowherd Volume YouTube page to get this stuff. We put it up there as soon as it's done. So let's start with a lot of NFL stuff. This is free agency week, and you're going to start seeing information pour in on free agency stuff. So let's start with a big one. The Rams have signed Davante Adams, the former Packer and Jet, with Aaron Rodgers. Rams signed him to a 2-year deal for pretty hefty money. Well, they're moving off Cooper Kupp. So why go after Davante Adams? Because the Rams, much like the Warriors wanted to get somebody on Steph Curry's timeline, Jimmy Butler, a veteran who can win now, and the Lakers wanted to do it. They didn't want to give up Anthony Davis for a kid. They want to win now. The Rams, Sean McVay, think they can win a Super Bowl. And Davante Adams and Puka Nacua will be the 1 and 2 wide receivers. Also interesting, they signed Tutu Atwell to a 1-year deal for $10 million. Why? Because he knows the system. He can run. He can get downfield. They don't want to break anybody in. They feel they got 2 years with Matt Stafford that he can play at a Super Bowl winning level. So the Rams have been doing this. I've talked about this at great length. They're spending their money. Chiefs do this. They're spending their money on offense and trying to keep their defense young, flexible, and less expensive. That doesn't mean Jared Verse isn't going to get a huge deal in a few years for the Rams. You keep your stars. I saw Nick Bolton just got signed by the Chiefs, linebacker, excellent player, super rangy, great linebacker. But you've got Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, Tyler Higbee, a very solid B-plus tight end. Tutu Atwell in the system, knows the offense. They may go draft. They also signed left tackle Jackson to a contract. So they got Havenstein right tackle, Jackson left tackle. They're spending all their money on offense right now. But it's a great defense. You could argue the defense is more talented, but it's very young and doesn't cost as much. So this is just, this is the Rams formula. You got a quarterback that can win the Super Bowl for the next 2 years. We're going to load him up with guys that know the system or know how to play. And so that's why you get the Davante Adams deal. And I agree with it. I agree with that belief, which is when you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, don't waste the years. You don't know what happens. Stafford's been dinged up his whole career. So get him ready to go. This defense last year, which gave Jalen Hurts trouble in the snow, or Hurts passed for under 70 yards, this defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. But it wasn't offensively good enough to win a Super Bowl. So they're going to move off Cooper Kupp. You'll have 2 number ones in Puka, Davante Adams. They'll probably draft another wide receiver, but you've got it all now. You got both tackles, your quarterback, star running back, better than average tight end, and now 2 number ones on offense and a great head coach. So the Rams deal makes sense. Another story, Diana Rossini reporting that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make a big run at Sam Darnold, the most athletic in the prime quarterback available on the market. She said she still believes the Seahawks are the leader in the clubhouse. So I think about this stuff all the time, and because I've bounced around in my career, and what do I consider when you're moving around and you have options? I always consider the management just as much or more than the money. And for Sam Darnold, I'd be very wary of Pittsburgh. I do not think the Pittsburgh Steelers currently possess the ability to get the most out of a quarterback. That doesn't mean Sam Darnold couldn't be a Steeler and be pretty good. But there's about 6 or 7, maybe a few more, but 6 or 7 teams in this league that I think are uniquely equipped to get the most out of any quarterback, whether it's a star or a B quarterback, Sam Darnold, B+. The Rams with McVay, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Andy Reid, Kansas City, Sean Payton getting the most out of Bo Nix, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. There's more, but I'd say there's 7 or 8 organizations. Philadelphia has done a good job where, the O-line, the coaching, the coordinating, they put a lot of resources around the organization to help the quarterback. I do not consider the Pittsburgh Steelers one of those. We'll see how Ben Johnson works in Chicago, but historically, even recent last decade, Chicago's not equipped to help a quarterback be his best. Again, it doesn't mean Mitch Trubisky can't get you to the playoffs, but the Bears have shown time and time again they lack a sensibility. They can be tone deaf. It's more of a defense-first organization. Pittsburgh Steelers have led the NFL in defensive spending for, I think, 3 years guaranteed. Maybe it's 4. So that's just the organization. That's the coach. They can't get the offensive line right. McVay has gotten the offensive line right. Andy Reid, Sean Payton, those guys need one off season to get it right. Steelers have been trying to get it right, and they put draft capital in it. They've spent money on it. They still can't get the O-line right. So I think for Sam Darnold, you have to consider that. I'm not saying Seattle is a great offensive organization. Mike McDonald's a defensive coach, but the GM, John Snyder, I mean, he just doesn't miss on wide receivers. You go back to his history. He gets wide receivers right. He gets running backs right. I like Seattle's offensive personnel, and I'm not absolutely sure Darnold would crush it there, but I have more confidence in Seattle than I do Pittsburgh, which is telling you I have very little in Pittsburgh, little confidence in Pittsburgh offensively to get the best out of any quarterback. Again, I'm not saying if you would have put in Brady in Pittsburgh, he wouldn't have been successful. But there's a reason that he and Bruce Arians won a Super Bowl. They're just coaches that are better at this stuff. So that's where we are today. You're going to get more and more information coming out, probably by the time this airs. But I think the Darnold story is interesting. I would guess it's probably 65-35, 60-40 Seattle over Pittsburgh. They're both very good rosters, both the Seahawks and the Steelers. And Darnold will have, in both instances, especially Pittsburgh, you're not going to have to outscore everybody. But when you're in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, you know, you need to have an organization that really gets offense. And I don't think the Steelers do. Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Now, Diana also reported that the Seahawks will come in contact with Aaron Rodgers. So I thought Aaron played really well at the end of the year, but if you're giving me Darnold or you're giving me Aaron Rodgers, I would take Darnold, even though I think Aaron has obviously a much more impressive resume and at his best can be better than Sam Darnold. But Sam is, at this point in his prime, he's much more athletic. I think he's more coachable. You don't get any baggage. Aaron, at this point, and listen, I was told by a source, I said this 3 weeks ago or maybe a month ago, and I trust my source, that when Aaron Glenn, the new Jet coach, moved off Aaron Rodgers, remember Aaron flew out to New York thinking he was going to be a Jet, and Aaron Glenn said, we're not interested. My source said the Jets told him, we don't want that quarterback, and we just don't want Aaron the guy. It doesn't mean Aaron is Lucifer. But Aaron comes, he's a very moody guy and a very moody player, and I was told that by two people who played with him for the Packers. And so if you've got a young coach in Mike McDonald, do you want to saddle him with Aaron Rodgers' personality? Aaron Glenn wanted no part of it because Aaron Glenn from Detroit knows how valuable culture is. So Seattle is building their culture, and I think Aaron's not a good fit for that. Now, when he went to New York, Robert Saleh felt he had the culture built. He needed a life preserver. It didn't work. But that's not what Seattle's looking at. Seattle is saying to themselves, hey, we may draft a quarterback this year. We'll certainly draft a quarterback next year. It's a much better college quarterback class. But we got a roster here that can win. And we think our staff, we got two good backs, Noah Fant, receivers. John Snyder either drafts them or acquires them. He's good at that position. The O-line's good enough. Defense is young and talented. We think Sam can keep us going in the direction that we want to build. So I think Aaron's a long shot to Seattle, but he's been so talented and he did play well in the last 10 games. I think you talk to him. I mean, if Darnold's camp wants $45 million and Aaron's willing to play for less, okay, then you go with Aaron. So Sam's, to me, talented, but his contract should be closer to Baker Mayfield than it should be to what Brock Purdy will get. Even though I think Darnold's is talented, Purdy's going to get about $48 million. Probably close to it. I don't think I'd spend it on Sam, especially giving him, I'd give him two, maybe a team option third. I'm not giving him four. He just has one great year and a lot of questions. Live, dine, unwind, repeat. That's life at sea aboard a Virgin Voyages sailing. $1,000 in value is included. Everything. Michelin star chefs, meticulously designed cabins, just a great, gorgeous place to feel renewed. Helps the stress melt like the ice in a frozen drink. Hideaway on your private terrace. Dance the night away. It's your voyage. Epic adventures, never a dull moment. All year long, from well-being months at the beginning of the year, all the way through the holiday voyages to close out the year. Virgin Voyages, they've got it all. Theme sailings to the best onboard music, entertainment parties. Anything you want. Explore the Caribbean this winter on one of their week-long adult-only Caribbean escapes. Have not been on one. They're supposed to be great. There's a reason Virgin Voyages was voted world's best by Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast for the second year in a row. You deserve to find out why. Check it out. Go to virginvoyages.com or just contact your travel advisor. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, there's stuff trickling out that Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson will end up with the New York Giants. Say it out loud. Old quarterbacks going to organizations to be a savior. It doesn't work. It didn't work with Aaron with the Jets. It didn't work with Russell to the Denver Broncos. You can be an older quarterback and go to a really good roster. Stafford to L.A., Tom to Tampa. But this Aaron Rodgers to the New York Giants, wow. I'd consider retirement. That organization, you got a coach and a GM that could be gone before Thanksgiving. Offensive line has issues. They have one weapon. The running game's weak. The division's excellent now that Jaden Daniels appears to be Lamar Jackson of the NFC. You know, it always ends the way it should for quarterbacks, right? What you put into it, you get out of it. And if Aaron Rodgers signs with the New York Giants, this is how it should have ended. Superstar level quarterback talent, limping to the end, wobbly to the end with the Jets and the Giants without much of a market. And for the record, he was very good in his last 10 games. Don't kid yourself. With a really weak NFL coaching staff, Aaron Rodgers did a good job with the Jets last 10 games. Where's the market? Whose fault is that? When you're a pain in the butt, this is what happens. When you're mostly committed but not always in the off season, this is what you become. Reap what you sow.